Hello friends, welcome to my channel, Yaya's Heart Tarot. Today is Saturday, September 17th, and I will be bringing messages from departed loved ones. I'll be doing 2 readings today, but before we do that, as has become customary for my Saturday readings, I would like to bring forward to you the messages that I received from my preparatory meditation. These messages, I believe, are to assist some of you in knowing who might be coming through for you. These are messages, I believe, to indicate perhaps a relationship that you may have had with the departed or something about them that you might remember. So let's go through those first. The first vision that I had was a very, very turquoise sky, just a beautiful turquoise blue sky. And it gradually, initially it was just the color, it was just that color, and then it sort of developed into a sky and then an ocean. And it was from the beach. It was a very, very pristine beach. The water was also very, very turquoise blue, just a gorgeous, gorgeous scene. The beach was deserted, there was no one else there. It was extremely clean. The sand was very light in color, and the water was gently washing up onto the shore. So if that is something that resonates with some of you, if you perhaps took a vacation with a loved one who's departed to a place like that was very memorable for you, if perhaps the ocean was a favorite of theirs and they used to tell stories about the ocean even though maybe you never went there, if perhaps they had some picture in their home, or if this was a favorite color of theirs, the turquoise blue, if this was a theme, if this was the decor in their home, somehow there was some connection to the turquoise blue in the ocean. It was a very, very much, not just that color, it was very related to the ocean. So if that has some significance for some of you to a departed loved one, that is who is coming through for you today. The next vision that I saw was a woman who had a scarf tied around her head and under her neck, under her chin. She was also wearing very, very dark sunglasses with black rims. It had a very 50s vibe to it. And she looked as though she either was windblown or she was wearing this scarf to keep from being windblown. I got the distinct impression that she was maybe riding in a convertible. It was just very, very 50s. So, if this reminds you of a particular individual that you know, that could be who's coming through for you. If there was someone, perhaps a loved one who passed on, who had a 50s vintage convertible that was a beloved car or a project car that they were working on, that could be who's coming through for you. If you looked at maybe a photo album of family members from generations past with someone and saw this picture of this woman with this scarf tied around her head and the dark sunglasses, that individual that you shared that time with might be the individual who's coming through. Perhaps it was someone who loved 50s music. This is a very iconic sort of an image. So it may have been someone who loved like 50s movies, and this may have actually tied in with the beach theme of the previous vision. Now that I think about it, there could be some 50s or early 60s beach themed movies that also had surfing and riding in convertibles, that sort of thing. So it could be someone that you shared that love of vintage movies with that particular theme. It could be someone that you rode in a convertible with. Perhaps it was a loved one who put a scarf on you and some sunglasses when you were younger, so that you wouldn't get windblown in a ride in a convertible. So that may be how that plays in. So if any of those resonate with you, then that's who's coming through for you. And then I had an interesting vision. It was a bluebird, but it wasn't the entire bluebird. Back behind, I could see this beautiful light blue sky with big puffy white clouds. It was a very bright sunny day. It was not a blue jay. It was an actual bluebird. But I only saw a very small portion of the bluebird's face and body. Mostly it was just a wing that almost hit me in the face. Although it didn't evoke any sense of startle or fear or anything like that, it was almost as though this wing was just almost animated in front of me. It would have been the left wing of the bird. It was on my left side, and the bird was actually out of my view over here. It reminded me very much of perhaps a bird from a Disney cartoon, like Snow White or something like that. It seems as though there was some really old Disney show that had something to do with the Bluebird of Happiness. So it may have been a reference to that. So if that rings a bell for you, if there was some Disney movie or something that you watched with a loved one, if you had a loved one who had a bluebird that was a pet, if you had a loved one who perhaps had feeders outside of their home where they fed birds and there were bluebirds that came there, this may have even been an actual encounter that you had. If there was someone who fed birds, if they fed them maybe from their hand even, and a bird came and fluttered very close in front of you or in front of them, and that was something that you saw, if that resonates for you, then that's who's coming through. And then the next vision that I saw was in the corridor of it appeared to be a castle. It was very dark gray, rough-hewn, big blocks that made up the walls and the floor. And up ahead, there was an arched doorway, also made out of these rough, hewn stones. And I say doorway, but I don't believe there was actually a door there. There was a like maroon velvet drape that was pulled over to one side. So you could see through this doorway. You could see this drape on one side, but you could see through the doorway, although the vision was far enough away that I couldn't really see into the room. I could see that there was some light, but it seemed more like it was perhaps candlelight or a lantern or something that was dim. It was off to the, would have been my right. And at this doorway was a young child who I believe had blonde hair. My initial feeling was that it was a boy, but it may have been a girl as well for some of you. But this child was pulling on the arm of someone who was in the room and trying to pull them out of the room. And the child was like turned away, trying to run and pull, like they wanted this person to come and play with them. The person was very reluctant. I got the impression it was a woman. It was most definitely appeared to be a woman. But they were very reluctant to come out of this room. They didn't, and they never did in this vision come out of the room, but the child was still pulling them, and the child was gleeful, and I got the impression that while this person didn't want to come out of this room, they had a fondness for this child, and even though it upset them to try to come out of this room under normal circumstances, with this child wanting them to come out with them, it almost made them want to come out of this room, and I felt almost as though they were afraid to come out of this room, but with this child there, they lost some of that fear, and they had a very warm feeling toward this child. So I took from that one that some of you may have had a departed loved one who perhaps had some anxiety that kept them from going out often into the world. They may have even go so far as to say they were agoraphobic. They had a phobia about going out into the world. They may have had something that happened in their lifetime that kept them from wanting to go out in the world. They may have had some depression issues that kept them home. They may have also had some sort of alternative lifestyle that in their lifetime was not really accepted, or at least not by their people. They may have been gay, they may have been transgender, they may have been a practicing witch, They may have, they may just have had, they may have been autistic, on the spectrum somewhere, which of course would not have even been recognized back in their time, if this was, some time ago. And it wouldn't necessarily have had to been some time ago. It could have been a person more recent who just felt that their identity was not accepted, and so they didn't. They chose to stay secluded, but that there was a child, and this child was likely you, who brought them out of their shell. And it may have been that this child brought them out of their shell permanently, encouraged them and gave them the courage to come out, whatever that might mean for them, and live among society again. Or it could be that this child just sort of brought them out of their shell when the child was around, and they could share some time with this child, and they had a very definite fondness, love for this child. So it could be that it brought them some light to their life when this child was around. And again, I feel as though this child was you when you were younger. So if that rings a bell for somebody, then that could be someone who's coming through for you as well. The last thing that happened was I had a very tickling sensation on the left nostril of my nose, right on the outside of my nose, and it almost made me want to sneer. So I felt as though that was perhaps a nod to maybe a look that someone had, that they, whether it be kidding or just the way that they always looked, kind of a sneer on their face a lot of the time. It could have been someone who had some sort of like a stroke or some sort of surgery or some sort of injury that actually caused them to have kind of a sneer look about them. So if that rings a bell to you, or it could be someone who smelled funny, who maybe you, when you were a child, noticed this when other people didn't acknowledge it, but they probably did notice it, but they just didn't acknowledge it. And maybe perhaps you even said something about it at some point, or asked this person why they smelled. So if any of that rings a bell for you, then that's who's coming through for you today. So let's go get to the groups that we're doing today. We're doing 2 groups again, as I mentioned. The first group, group 1, is going to be this Rhyolite or Rainforest Rhyolite skull. And group number 2 is this Orgone Garnet pyramid, and it has a spiral on the front too, and garnets inside. So group 1 is the Rhyolite skull, and group 2 is the Garnet pyramid. Take whatever time you need to decide which group calls to you, and when you do, the groups will be linked below in the description box with the timestamp. So just click on the timestamp. It'll take you directly to your reading, and I will see you there. Hi, group 2. This is your reading. Excuse me, group 1. Group 1, this is your reading. The Rhyolite skull. So the reading for group 1, the first card we'd like to get is a card to represent the person who's passed on. So Spirit, may we please have a message for the person who has passed on to represent them. Okay, so we got the Devil card. The Devil card. So this person who has passed on is someone that you may have had an unhealthy attachment with. Or perhaps it's a person who had some addictions or habits that were unhealthy for them, that really ruled their life a lot of the time. It could be that this was a person who was very outspoken about their opinions. It could be, and they were perhaps not very tolerant about anybody else's opinions. It could be a person who just was sort of tangled up with themselves. They may have not had a very high self-esteem. They may have had, again, some addiction issues. But this individual was just someone who really kind of kept themselves in a state of they fought with themselves. They basically fought with themselves a lot. And I don't necessarily mean that they, had arguments with themselves or anything like that, but they doubted themselves a lot of the time. They berated themselves. They just were never particularly comfortable in their own skin. So that is who is coming through for you. So Spirit, thank you for that message. And looking back on their life, how do they see their life here? How does your departed see their life, Group 1, when they look back on it? Okay, so we got the 9 of Stones, the 4 of Stones, the 3 of Wands, and the 6 of Stones. Interesting. So even though this person was someone who had a lot of conflicts within themselves, they look back on their life and they see it as being solid. They feel like they had a lot. And perhaps what they're saying is that they didn't realize how much they really had in their life. That could be what this 4 of Stones is saying. But and the 6 of Stones as well. So they look back on their life and they now realize how much they really had in their life. The 3 of Lances basically is saying that they know that they kind of had their pick of whatever they wanted in their life. I'm guessing that they didn't pick what they wanted in their life. They probably never took what they really deserved, or it's not that they didn't take what they deserved, but they didn't appreciate what they had. They may not have really been thankful for what they had. I feel as though they were always kind of thinking there was something better, or believing that they missed out on something. But they look back on their life now and they see that they really did have just a lot in their life. They had everything that they needed in their life, and they feel like they didn't acknowledge it or realize it at the time. So that is how they see their life. Spirit, thank you for that message. And departed, what is a lesson you'd like to share with your loved ones still here? What is a lesson that you would like to share with them? This is a lesson that your loved one, your departed loved one, would like to share with you, Group 1. So we got the 6 of Swords, we got the 7 of Swords, and we got the 8 of Vessels. So what they want you to know is that they want you to leave behind all of the doubts that you have. They want you to only take what's good in your life. What is this 6 of Swords telling me? Yeah. So, yes, okay. So actually I've got a double confirmation here. They want you to walk away from whatever it is that holds you back in your life, and just leave it. If there's something in your life that doesn't feel good to you, whether that's because you have decided that it doesn't feel good, or if it actually doesn't feel good. And I get the impression that they're saying that there are things in your life that you stick with because you feel like you're supposed to, but they don't feel good. They don't reward you. It's not something that makes you happy, flat out. And they are saying very strongly here. Two of these cards, actually all three of these cards, are very strongly saying walk away from anything that does not feel good to you. Walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. Walk away from anything that you don't deserve. And by that I mean walk away from anything that is thrust upon you that you shouldn't have to put up with. So that's the lesson that they want you to know. Whatever in your life does not serve you, whatever doesn't feel good, whatever doesn't make you happy, flat out, whatever does not make you happy, you don't have to hang on to it. That's something that society may have said, you've got to do this, you have to do this job if you want to make a living, if you want to be able to survive, you have to stay with this person if you want to look good. You've put this commitment into it, so now you have to stay there, even though it doesn't feel good to you, even though it feels terrible, even though it's hurting you. Whatever your belief is, and this is going back to this devil card that we started with. That was kind of where they're coming from. They had this belief that they had to stick with these things that didn't feel good, that didn't serve them, that weren't good for them. And they want you to walk away from that. They want you to really look at your life and walk away, leave whatever it is that does not feel good, that doesn't make you happy, that doesn't add to you, to your life. So that's the lesson that they'd like to share. Thank you, Spirit, for that. And what is something, Spirit, that you wish you had paid more attention to when you were here? Group 1, this is something that your loved one wished they had paid more attention to when they were here. Departed Spirit, what is it that you wish that you had paid more attention to? Apparently there's a lot. Can we please just get a few cards? Okay, we'll go with this. Let's try this again. Departed loved one, what is it that you wish that you had paid attention to? I think maybe I need to get a different deck. And we'll see if maybe we can get this narrowed down a little bit here. I apologize for this. Your loved one has some very strong ideas, evidently, of what they wish they had paid attention to when they were here. There's a lot. But let's try a different deck and see if we can get a little more clarity with this. Okay, Spirit. Thank you, but what is it, with just a few cards, what is it that you wish that you had paid attention to while you were here? What is it that you wish that you had paid more attention to? Wow. Okay. Well, that's a lot of swords. That is a lot of swords. My goodness. So, your loved one is saying that they wish that they had paid more attention to what was holding them back. They wish that they had been able to ascertain more clearly what it was that was good for them and what was not good for them. They wish that they had paid much more attention to what it was that was keeping them stuck and not allowing them to move forward. You see, this is the 8 of Swords, which is entrapping yourself, basically, keeping yourself stuck. And then here we've got the 6 of Swords, which is about moving away from that which is harming you or keeping you stuck. And they feel like they didn't do that. They feel like they wish that they had paid more attention to what it was that was keeping them trapped and not allowing them to move away from that which was harming them. And I think that they're saying that they actually did know They did know, but they didn't pay attention. Spirit, can we get some clarification, please, for the Judgment card? Why is this here? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we got the Chariot. So they knew that this was harming them. They honestly knew the things in their life that didn't feel good, that they hated, that made them feel bad, that made them feel less, that sapped their energy from them. But they didn't go with it. They didn't do anything about it. So that's something that they wish that they'd paid more attention to. Actually identifying what it was that was not good for them, which they had the capability to do that. They did see it, but they didn't act on it. So that was what they wished that they had paid more attention to, actually taking some action to free themselves from what it was that was causing them to lose energy, that was causing them pain, that was causing them suffering. So thank you, Spirit, for that message. What would you like? Is there a message you would like to give to your loved ones? Departed, is there a message you would like to give to your loved ones here in Group 1? The Queen of Cups. They absolutely love you. They love you. Not they loved you, they love you. And B, they want you to love yourself. They want the love of yourself to be the overarching theme that helps you to define where to go in your life. So they want you to always start with that. Start with loving yourself, and then ask yourself, is what I'm doing, or is what is in front of me serving that? Does it serve to love myself? And if it doesn't, don't go that way. So that's the message that they would like to give you. Always, always, always start with what is nurturing to me, what helps me love myself, what allows me to feel loved, and pay very close attention to that. So Spirit, thank you so much for these messages for your loved ones. Let's take a look at the oracle card that we pulled and see what it tells us. It's the Tuatha De Danann. So let's take a look at the book and see what that tells us. Hidden forces, spirit guardians. The Tuatha De Danann are an ancient tribe in Irish mythology who perfected the use of magic. They were driven to the underworld, an infinite paradise where no one grows old and time has no meaning. They are aware of your soul path and will open doors for you to reach your destiny. They are also mischievous tricksters who may cause obstructions and prank you if you've fallen off your path. Then their intention is to benefit you, so pay close attention. We all lose our way now and again. Our time here is precious. The Tuatha De Danann are here to remind you to check your spiritual compass, to be sure you are heeding your personal calling. So I feel like that lines up pretty well with this reading. What your loved one wants you to know. Heed your personal calling. Feel that love. Follow your true path. And if you fall off of that path, you've got these pranksters, these trickster goddesses, who are going to start throwing roadblocks in your way. Or perhaps not roadblocks, but hiccups. So when you start noticing that things are not working as smoothly as you would like them to, and that may be as simple as dropping a cup of water when you're in a hurry in the morning, going to clean it up and not having any paper towels, something along those lines, something that just is like builds upon itself, just all of these follies, this Murphy's Law kind of a thing. When that starts to happen, realize that that's these goddesses or the universe in general telling you, hold up, step back, take a look at things. We need you to stop right now. We need you to take a breath. We need you to take a pause because you're not going the right direction. So we're going to help you understand that. We're going to help you know that. We're going to show you that this isn't working. So when something just doesn't work right, if you can't get your zipper zipped and then it breaks, whatever it is that you're on your way to do or whatever was in your head when that came about, reevaluate that. Because it's probably not the right path, at least not right in this moment. So I hope this reading was helpful for you guys in group 1. And I'm thankful for this loved one for coming through for you. So thank you very much. And thank you for sharing time with me. And I hope you'll come back again and we can share some time with more loved ones in the future. Thanks. Blessings. Bye-bye. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading, the Garnet Orgone Pyramid. The first cards that we would like to get, or message that we would like to get, is to represent the person who's passed on. Who's coming through for you today, Group 2? Who is coming through for Group 2, please? We got the 5 of Cups and we got the World card. Interesting. I feel as though this is someone who thought the world of you, loved you very much, but they didn't get to see you very often. And they regretted that. I feel as though this is someone that your family may have moved away from when you were young, so you didn't have an opportunity to see them very often, but when you did, you were their world. Hopefully that helps you to know who's coming through for you in this reading. Thank you, Spirit, for that message, and may we please have messages from the departed on looking back. How do you see your life? Departed, looking back, how do you see your life? Okay, so we've got the 6 of Coins. We've got the 6 of Spoons, which is the 6 of Swords, sorry. We've got the Strength card. And we have got the 9 of Cups, or buckets. So looking back on their life, this loved one feels as though they made some trade-offs and perhaps moved away from some things that they probably regret not being closer to, like you, in order that they could fulfill what they thought their life's duty was. So looking back, yeah, they feel like they made some sacrifices. They feel like they gave up some things. And one of those things was moving away from you, very definitely. Moving away from you. They feel like they made some choices that took them away from things in their life that they perhaps wish that they hadn't been apart from. It took them some deep inner strength to be able to. It took some deep inner strength to. It's not something that they had to be able to do, but they they had this this loneliness, this they missed you. They missed you very much, and so it took a lot of fortitude and inner strength for them to get through their days, and not every moment of every day, but when they started to think about you, they had such a very deep fondness for you, and it took a lot of inner strength for them to get through, because they just couldn't connect with you as often as they wanted to. So that's, looking back on their life, what they are seeing. That they lived their life, and their life was, it was okay. They were where they were because that's where they needed to be, but they missed you being in their life more. Thank you, loved one, for that message. Thank you, departed. Also, there were 2 6s in this, and 6s to me bring about a sense of balance, of structure. There was also the here above the strong man. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there is an infinity symbol. So we've got the 2 6s, and then we've got the 8 and the 8 on its side. So we've got 2 8s and 2 6s, and both 6s and 8s to me are structure. They talk about structure. 8s are very structured, whereas 6s are more of a sort of a day-to-day, keeping things in line kind of a structure. So looking back on their life, they also feel like their life was very structured, and perhaps they had a lot of routines that were important to them. That may have been part of what kept them from being closer to you. They may have stayed where they were when you, and perhaps you and your family, moved farther away, because they had this structure that was important to them. So they may have deemed the structure, staying in one place, staying with their job, doing what they always have done, keeping their place in their community, whatever. This structure that they had may have kept them from following you or being closer to you. And so they see that looking back as well. Thank you, Spirit, for that message. What is a lesson that you would like to share with your loved ones? What lesson would you like to share with group 2, please? What lesson would you like to share with them? Oops. I am dumping more cards on the floor today, I tell you. Okay, so we've got quite a few cards here. Let's see what we've got. Okay, well, we got the Devil card, and we got the Ace of Brooms, we got the King of Spoons, we got the 10 of Balloons, and we got the 5 of Brooms. Well, let's see here. The Ace and the 5 of Brooms seem to be talking about reacting rather than planning, or not planning, but just reacting to the situation and not really thinking things all the way through. And that by doing that, it in their life, it kept them tied to what they thought they needed to have, or where they thought they needed to be. It was just kind of their knee-jerk reaction that when you moved away, that they couldn't possibly move away. They had a home, they had a job, they had a community, they had whatever they had, and they didn't even stop to think what that meant and if that was even true, that they had to stick with that. And so they ended up cutting through, that's not the way I want to put this. They ended up day by day, I keep hearing cutting through. They had to cut through this loneliness that they felt to continue their day-to-day. And they had this entire story in their head of who they were and what that meant, and they just trudged through that for the rest of their life. Basically, they never second guessed, they never thought about the possibility that they could do something different. It never really crossed their mind. They knew that they missed you and probably your family and whoever else they missed. They knew that they missed those people, and that caused them heartache. But it never occurred to them that they could do anything about it. They always assumed that someday you would come and visit, or maybe you would move back. And so they never took it into themselves that they could change their situation. And because of that, it cost them all of this. It cost them this loneliness. They had all of this loneliness and this regret and this sorrow in their life. But they didn't even allow themselves really to feel it very much. They just sort of went about their day, almost robotically, went about their life. They stayed in the roles that they had always been given, that they came to identify with. They came to identify themselves as this role. And they never even, it didn't even ever occur to them that they could be anything different. And so they just took it on faith that all of this joy that they could have had, all of this abundance, it just wasn't in the cards. This card also talks about being anchored down, and they felt as though they were really anchored in the place where all their stuff was, and where all their memories were, and where their life had always been. So really, they just want you to know that because you've put down roots somewhere, or because you have a job somewhere, or because you raised a family somewhere, that doesn't have to be who you are when it no longer fits. So that's the lesson that they want you to know there. So Spirit, departed loved one, thank you for that lesson. And what's something that you wish that you had paid more attention to? Departed, what is something that you wish you had paid more attention to? Group 2, what is something your departed wished that they had paid more attention to in their life? Okay, well, they wish that they had paid more attention to what they actually had, what was important. They wished that they had paid more attention to what was outside of them, what was available to them, what they could have reached for, what they could have had. They just wish that they had paid more attention to that rather than just going through the motions day in, day out, and staying where they were and staying stuck. Spirit, thank you so much for that message. And what is a message that you would like to give to your loved ones? Spirit, what is a message you'd like to give to Group 2, please? They want you to love your life and love those in your life and never, ever overlook how important it is to have that love. And the love of your family and those who are close to you is the most important thing in your life. More important than your job, more important than your location, more important than your stuff, your house, where you have memories. The most important thing is not something that ties you to a particular place or to a particular duty. The most important thing is being close to those where you can express your love and they can express it back for you. So thank you so much, Spirit, for that beautiful message. Thank you so much, Spirit. Thank you. And throughout this entire reading, I don't get the feeling that this Spirit had a bad life. I don't get the feeling that they hated their life or anything like that. They just never really thought that it could be a whole lot different. They loved you, they loved their loved ones, they had connection with you, and their life was good. They had a good life, but they just wish that they had realized that they could be closer to you, at least toward the end, where they might have had more time to spend, and been able to be together and feel your love more closely. So again, it's not that their life was terrible. It's not that they were depressed and lonely or anything like that. It's none of that. They had a fine life, and they had meaningful work, and they had their own home, but they just have this knowledge now that they've moved on. They realize how much they really did miss you and wish that they had done something to change that. More so than they did. And it wouldn't have even necessarily have to been something permanent, but perhaps they didn't even ever come visit because it was, they had to work, or they had to take care of the farm, or they had to take care of the house, or they just didn't like to travel. Whatever the thing was, they just wish now that they'd realized that they could have made more of an effort. They could have broken out of their shell a little bit to be able to spend more time with you. And they regret that they didn't do that because they love you very, very much. So, thank you, Spirit. Thank you for sending your love to your loved ones. And let's take a look at the oracle card that we got here and see what it tells us. So the oracle card that we got is Sage Goddess. Sage Goddess. And oddly, this is the one on the front of the guidebook. So that's kind of cool. So, Sage Goddess. Keywords are purification and cleansing. And it says the ancient global practice of burning sage is not only for purifying a space or a person, but also to heighten spiritual clarity. The botanical name for sage, salvia, stems from the Latin word salvare, which means to heal, which is also the origin of the word salvation. The other qualities of sage when burned, such as giving wisdom, clarity, and increasing spiritual awareness, are also indicated in the name. It's no accident that we refer to wise people as sages. The Sage Goddess calls you to cleanse your sacred space, to remove both physical and psychic toxins from your atmosphere in order to more clearly envision the transcendental experience of life. She offers the opportunity to clear out the clutter of the mind and heart, cut through the chatter of thought, and to find peace, order, and focus. So I feel like that was perhaps not linked entirely to your reading, but it was some very, very wise advice. And perhaps the chatter that you need to cut through is, that voice in your head that tells you you've got to do all of the things that society has laid down and said that we need to do. To go to that job every single day, to sacrifice the time with your family to make the money to pay for the house where the family lives, but you don't get to live there because you're always at work. And I'm sorry, I don't want to get on a high horse about this, but I do want you to, whenever you can, take some time, take some back for you, take some care for you. Remember how important it is to connect not only with yourself, but with your loved ones, take that time, because when it's gone, it's gone. And if you didn't do it right now, you may not have a chance to do it on down the road. Before you know it, it's the opportunity's gone. So so grab that brass ring. Do what you want to do now. Love the people in your life and let them know that. So thank you, Group 2, for sharing this time with me and with your loved one. I have so enjoyed connecting with this loved one. What a beautiful individual. And I've enjoyed connecting with you. So I hope that you do come back again. I hope that this has been valuable for you. And I hope that you have great blessings in your life. Bye-bye.